Now that you've successfully connected your CQG connection with Quantower trading software with AMP futures, let's give you a brief introduction to the software as far as getting started. The first thing that I want to cover, which in my opinion is probably one of the most important elements of the software, is what we call the toolbar. The toolbar is listed at the top of the workspace where you see the shortcut panels and also these little icons on the top right corner. Let's start first by explaining one of the important elements of the toolbar. Understand that the toolbar is entirely separate from the actual workspace of Quantower. Notice on the top right corner there's a minimize button, there's an X button within the toolbar, but right below it there's a minimize, restore, and close button within the workspace. Watch what happens when I minimize the actual toolbar. It minimizes the entire trading platform. In your Windows task tray, you can repopulate it. Now, if I were to hit this X, this is going to actually close out the entire Quantower platform. Now, if I hit the minimize button within the workspace, what this is going to do is minimize the workspace, but keep the toolbar active. Again, to restore the workspace within your Windows task tray, just click where it says bind or the window that you're trying to populate. Now, if I hit the restore button, what this allows me to do is resize the actual workspace. So if I want to have multiple windows within my screen area, I'm able to do that by adjusting the window size accordingly. Now, of course, if I hit that restore button again or resize, it just basically resizes the actual workspace to fit the display of your screen. If I hit the X, this is going to actually close out the workspace. But remember, Quantower is still running because the toolbar is entirely separate from the workspace area region. So the emphasis is, remember, the toolbar is where you want to actually close the platform by clicking the X, or the minimize button if you want to minimize the entire platform, or if you just want to minimize or restore the workspace, make sure you use the minimize restore X within the workspace area instead. On the top left corner, you'll see this little button here. We'll cover this in a second. It's called the sidebar. Basically, when you click on it, this allows you to access different panels that are available to use within Quantower. There are different category groups for analytics, trading, portfolio, information, and miscellaneous. Again, we're going to cover this in more details in an entirely separate segment. The favorites panels is probably one of the most popular features within Quantower. What this basically allows you to do is create shortcuts and favorites of your favorite panels that you proactively use most often within your toolbar. Again, we'll go ahead and cover that in a different section. When you right-click with your mouse within the toolbar itself in empty space, you'll see this context menu appear. This is pretty self-explanatory. Just basically allows you to pick and choose what you want to see and what you don't want to see within your toolbar. It's as simple as selecting or deselecting. So for example, if I uncheck favorite panels, notice the favorite panels will go away. If I select it again, now you can see it reappears. So again, to get this menu option, you want to right-click an empty space within the toolbar to get this context menu. The first icon to the right, which looks like a safety lock, is basically what we call lock trading. Watch what happens when I click it. You'll see an icon appear that says trading is locked. This is a good mechanism if you want to prevent fat finger mistakes, or maybe if you walk away from your computer to run errands and you don't want any live execution to be operated, you can select this option as a safety mechanism. Here's me selecting it again to unlock trading. Notice on the chart trader here on the right side, when I lock trading, you can see that all the trading functions become disabled, and it even says trading is locked here. Again, if I click it again, now it's unlocked, and now the trading functions become active. The icon to the right is what we call the Workspace Manager. Again, we'll cover this in detail in a separate video. This is basically allows you to manage your workspaces. You can create new workspaces, you can rename existing workspaces, you can delete workspaces, and you can lock workspaces. We're going to create a separate video on how to use the Workspace Manager, but that's what the icon represents, which looks like an old school floppy disk. As mentioned in the previous segment on how to connect to CQG, this is where you click to actually connect to CQG, and as you can see, we're currently connected. A good visual indication lets you know that you're connected is when you see this little green indication, which lets you know that you are connected, and right below the connection itself, it gives you a little display of your latency. The icon to the right is the notifications button. This basically will populate notifications as you use the Quantower software. Notifications can range from a series of things. For example, rejected orders, successful connection to CQG, when you place orders, when orders get filled, etc. A good rule of thumb to understand is when you have unread notifications, you'll normally see a numerical value listed here. So for example, if you see a small numerical 5, that means that you have 5 unread notifications. And when you click on it, you'll be able to read those notifications in this notifications bar. As of right now, we have no notifications, and that's exactly what it will say when you have no notifications. You do have the ability to clear the notifications once you actually have notifications in this area. Now this button, the cog button, is a settings button. These are general settings for the entire platform of Quantower. Now I won't spend too much time on every single setting within general settings, but we will cover some basic examples and some important examples that I feel are worth mentioning. Under the general tab, for example, you'll see this theme tab. This is something that I really like. Most platforms give you limitations in regards to changing the overall theme of the software. Mostly you can only change the colors and backgrounds of the charts or maybe certain windows, but very rarely do you have the ability to change the actual theme of the entire software. So for example, let's say you're not happy with the default theme and you want to go to something, let's say to light water. When you select it, notice now the theme entirely changes to a light, brighter color. Now this might be a little more brighter or too bright for your eyes, so you do have a variety of different options such as dark autumn. You can go with grayscale. So it really just kind of boils down to personal preference. Just for demonstration purposes, we'll go back to default. The language option is really nice, as you can hit the drop-down menu and choose the specific language of preference that you normally speak. Just be sure to choose that language and it'll instantly translate the entire Quantower software to that language. Sounds, you can go in there and disable sounds. By default, they're on. Here's a universal switch to turn all the sounds off. Or you can go individually and turn them on and off by selecting or deselecting. You even have the ability to customize custom WAV files that you have stored locally on your hard drive if you wish to do so. Confirmations and warnings are all enabled by default. Example, do you want to be asked to place an order? Do you want to be asked to cancel an order? Do you want to be asked to modify an order? Again, it depends on user preference. Some traders are all about efficiency and rather not have these confirmations on. So you can turn them on and off from the confirmations and warnings section here just by simply checking or deselecting. Time zone setting is a time that you see here in the top right corner. Usually by default, it's going to be based off the local time zone on your PC. So right now it's 4:40 p.m. in Los Angeles. You have the ability to change the time zone. You can also click on the clock as well and click this little cog button on the top right corner to basically bring you back to the settings here, and you can choose a time zone of preference. Again, I'm not going to go through every little detail of all the settings within general settings. The main thing to understand that in order for you to get to the settings, you want to make sure you click the little cog button on the top right corner here to get into the settings themselves. Outside of that, the last thing I want to point out before we sign off on this topic is the help section here. If you click here, this will give you some information and access to different resources that you can use for Quantower. In the videos that we demonstrate, a lot of the times we demonstrate the basic fundamentals of the software, but perhaps there's something that we didn't demonstrate in our video tutorials that you are looking for, maybe advanced metrics on market profile tools, things of that nature. If you're not able to find those tools, you always have the ability to go into the help section and dig through the website of Quantower and find exactly what you're looking for as far as user guide. Other than that, the toolbar is going to be an essential centralized piece of the platform. You're going to be proactively using the toolbar very often because it has many different functions, whether you're creating panels from the sidebar, whether you're making changes to preferences, whether you're connecting to your connection or locking trading or managing workspace. This is the actual workspace region itself. So we'll get into that as we progress through the video, and we'll start to dissect all the different panels that you can use within Quantower. But for now, this is a quick introduction as far as getting started. Let's go ahead and really dive now into the nuts and bolts of Quantower software and really start teaching you how to use the software.